What's up, everybody? Welcome in Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson here at Southeastern 14. We are recording at around 10:45 a.m. Eastern on Friday. Let's start with our good friends at Bet Online, the top spot for all your live betting action and contest. We've got NBA and NHL, UFC in full swing. Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's all caps BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, Jay joins us from Chattanooga. What's going on, my man?
Not much. Getting ready for a busy weekend of softball. I've got a middle school softball pitcher living under the same roof, and we chase her around various parts of Southeast Tennessee, Northeast Alabama, and Northeast Georgia, Northwest Georgia. I'm sorry. Come hell or high water across the weekend. And hey, brother, and I know this is just a lament, and I know people don't tune in for this. Travel sports is pricey.
Yes, and so I was in Tallahassee for a couple days this week, vying for Uncle of the Week honors. Went to multiple Little League games. My niece is playing soccer in Dothan, Alabama this weekend. My nephew has had games, all day, every day. He travels all over. I don't know how the hell they do it. Does your son play baseball?
No, he's in high school now, but
Good for you.
but I tell you what, somehow he got a musical gene, and the band's just as occupied as travel sports. I mean, they're going to competitions in all over the
Ah,
South too.
okay. All
Hey,
right.
hey, it's a good thing we're good at picking games because I need the discretionary money.
There we go. I hear that. All right. And speaking of picking games, and he's a Missouri product, and it's kind of the gambling topic du jour this week. And we're talking about Jontay Porter. And according to the investigation, he had a VIP FanDuel account. He bet more than a thousand of game, more than 1,000 wagers, millions of dollars. And the NBA investigation, which they launched in late March, um, he from January to March bet on at least 13 NBA games, or the investigation discovered that bets ranging from 15 to 22,000. He bet $54,094 on these 13 games, and he netted profit $21,965. He has been banned for life. And on January 26th and on March 20th, he gave information to bettors he knew, and he took himself out of both games, claiming illness one time, claiming an eye injury another time, and all of his unders hit and on his player props. And so I haven't he's banned for life from the NBA, which is obviously big punishment. I mean, shouldn't he be getting prosecuted for this?
Well, I mean, if they can't prove that he actually fixed the outcome of the game and he just hurt himself, I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I would be real curious. I have not seen anything from FanDuel or DraftKings or our good friends at Bet Online. Are they going to ban this guy? I mean, are they going to pull the plug? Because, I mean, it's hard to know. But I tell you what's not hard to know. This is 100% the right decision because as gambling continues to grow, and it's only going to continue to grow because it's legal and up and running in 38 states in the country right now. And by the time my seventh grader's a senior in high school, it'll be legal in 48 of the 50 states, and only Idaho and Utah are the ones that are hard and set against it. And the leagues want it. their gambling partners want it. The TV partners want it because of the exposure and the interest from the casual fan. I mean, this is not going anywhere. But the only way this road leads to disaster is even a tangential appearance of a conflict of interest, or even the thought of conspiracy to where the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball is tantamount to professional wrestling. That's the death nail. You cannot get that back once you lose it. I know. I still work in newspapers. And dear Lord, how much is the mushroom cloud of fake news still part of the daily lexicon? I mean, for God's sakes, Rory McIlroy used it the other day. And okay, fine. We made a whole lot of mistakes. Hey, the next Calvin Ridley, who got like what, a 1.5 year suspension? I think Rob Manfred, I think Roger Goodell, I think everybody in North American sports is paying attention to what Adam Silver just did, and it's about to be the velvet hammer buy.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of those instances in the NFL were just like gambling on basketball, but doing it within the facility.
Right.
And but now I want to be clear on this.
And Porter, to your point, you're 100% right, because Porter bet on things and gave information on things he had a direct control of, and not even all right. I think we all believe and know that Pete Rose, if he agreed to the lifetime ban whenever he met with Bart Giamatti, we don't know all the nastiness that he pulled off. But if you're going to bet on your own under, you have direct control of that. This isn't even like saying, you know what? Because Pete Rose always maintained and contended that he only bet on the Reds as their manager.
I believe that. You don't believe that? I believe that.
I don't know. I don't believe a word that comes out of Pete Rose's mouth. No. I mean, that guy could tell me that I'm living in Chattanooga. I'm living on Signal Mountain. And I'm going, I don't know if I do, Pete. I don't know. You're such a liar that I may not. My wife may have moved our house, and you just have told me a story. But if you're going to bet it. I mean, if Porter at least bet on, hey, I'm going to go out there and score 19, I mean, I'm not saying that's any better, but it's at least a little more noble. I mean, you don't bet the under and then go, oh, my arm is broken, and do the Al Cervic from the Caddyshack.
Right.
I mean, what do you do?
Right. Yeah. So, but I want to be clear on this now. Because people that don't know much about sports and gambling are like, oh my God, like the sports books are the ones that alerted.
Yes. Well, and also the brain trust that Porter and his cohorts, they are honestly, it's like Delta House from Animal House, and they stole the test, but they stole the wrong test because they're all like D students. But then some random dude's going to put down an $80,000 parlay on
all
Porter unders
to win 1.1 million.
Yeah, you don't think that sets off a few bells and whistles there, Einstein? I mean, I don't want that guy driving my kids to school. Can we just go agree with that?
Yeah, so his cohorts, and then the Alabama baseball coaches. By the way, do they in college baseball, do they call it a head coach or a manager?
Head coach.
Okay. All right. Well, that Alabama head coach is his guy that was up in Cincinnati. I mean, he's sitting there telling the guys, "Oh, I need to get 100,000. It can't lose." Like, be a little smarter, dumbasses. But
and it did lose.
It did it.
And, well, hey, you know what, though? You know what? Should the NCAA come back? Because they gave that guy a 15-year show cause, and they thought they were tough. And then Adam Silver looked around and said, hold my beer, because I'm about to ban this dude. And, I mean, I think, honestly, A whole lot of folks need to they need to appoint czars of sports gambling across all the big leagues, including the NCAA. Those people need to have unilateral power to make the decisions of egregiousness. Because you're right, some of those NFL guys, let's be clear here. They're not going to test off the charts in some IQ scenarios. So their violation was they bet on other sports, but they just did it at like the Tennessee Titans facility. But Calvin Ridley was betting on various NFL parlays. And you start talking about what he does know and doesn't know. Hey, we're going to have to get to a point as this thing gets bigger and broader. You bet on your sport. Bye, Felicia.
Yep.
Pack your stuff at the door.
Yep. You are absolutely correct. All right. So let's move our conversation to the transfer portal. And we have had a lot of activity, and we're going to continue to have a lot of activity amongst our SEC programs. And let's start with Alabama. So a lot of guys have entered the portal for Bama, including the redhead southpaw Sam Walters, Nick Pringle, who was pretty vital for them, certainly in the Clemson game, and Rylan Griffin. But let's be clear that I think a lot of these guys are leaving because they're worried about playing time, because Alabama has got three. One 5-star and 2 high 4-stars coming in the high school route, and they got the AAC Player of the Year in Chris Youngblood from South Florida, and they got Houston Mallett from Pepperdine, and then Wrightsell, Nelson, and 3 others, or 3 other role players are coming back. And Sears is testing the NBA waters, but I believe he'll be back. And Alabama is getting a visit next week from Cliff Amore, who is visiting Georgetown this week. That's the big guy for Rutgers, one of the best rim protectors in the country. And I think they're in the mix for the St. Mary's point guard, who, everybody's wanting to get that guy, including my Gators. But our friends at Bet Online currently – actually, wow. So they have Alabama at 22-1. Most of the books have Alabama, not near as generous a number. And Auburn, I feel like, is a shorter number at a lot of books, but Bet Online has Auburn at 21-1, Kentucky at 14-1. And
really, is that just the name? Is that just your? I mean,
yeah, that just seems like a bad number because, Kentucky's got 3 players on their roster right now?
3 players and 1 incoming signee that is still left in a recruiting class that had like 5 or 6. I mean, they had I think 4 dudes in the McDonald's All-American game.
Yeah.
And all right, let's go back to where you started with this, because I think Alabama is a great litmus test to just the consternation of the portal. Because you look up and there's a whole lot of guys who played meaningful minutes down the stretch for Nate Oates and that team. And I agree 100% with you. I think Mark Sears comes back, and I think he's going to be preseason first-team All-American point guard. I think he's going to be preseason SEC Player of the Year. I think, and he likely will deliver on almost all of that, because dude is a great college player at 6'1", with college three-point range. I don't know about NBA three-point range. And he's a great free throw shooter, and he knows how to draw contact. But you also, as a whole lot of fans, college sports fans, especially across the SEC, lament the portal and the wild, wild west and the free agency and all the things that come about it. You can't help but wonder, how many of those players did Nate Oates say, guys,
right,
y'all need to go find a different place to play, because I've got 4 big-time freshmen coming. I've got 1 transfer. Mark Sears is coming back, and I'm going to bet money that I'm going to get the kid from St. Mary's. And then you guys are going to go from being role players to occasional starters to being on the end of my bench. And I don't know if I can keep you out here with And you know what? You can't truly bemoan the free agency, wild, wild west nature of the transfer portal until the NCAA guarantees 4-year scholarships, because a scholarship is a 1-year opportunity right now. And coaches have the opportunity to say, you know what? Didn't work. Got to go.
Yep.
And so the argument of you should recruit to the school and not the coach, one, that's hollow to begin with. Because if I wanted to be an architect, I'm going to go to Georgia Tech rather than Georgia. If I wanted to be an NFL linebacker, I'm going to Georgia rather than Georgia Tech. And the reasoning is clear. So, I mean, if your coach leaves, that's the reason you chose that school. So, I mean, I understand the consternation. I understand the resistance to change. I understand the unpredictability and the, for lack of a better word, the wildness of it. But we've also got to realize there's a certain amount of fairness with this that has never been in place before. If you want to give it everybody gets one freebie, and then the only way you get another freebie is if your coach leaves, okay. I mean, I'm okay for a little more regulation in this thing, but do not badmouth the portal and that how it's bad for college sports, because it's good for college athletes.
It is. It is. I mean, for decades, coaches have been the only ones that could leave for higher paying jobs, et cetera, whereas players would be stuck. All right, before we move away from Alabama, I just want to point out, because Nate Oates' offense is so much emphasis on shooting the three. Mallet, the transfer from Pepperdine, 41.5% from three this past year. Youngblood, the kid from USF, 41.6% from three. Okay, so Arkansas right now, they have one guy on the roster, that's Big Z, but I'm sure in the coming weeks, Mr. Calipari will be stacking that roster, and we'll be talking about them a lot. So let's move over to Auburn, which got a really good transfer from Furman and JP Pegues, and some real good news this week with Janai Broome coming back.
Well, I mean, we were talking about preseason All-Americans, and I don't know if he'll be a first-team guy, because there are a lot of bigs that return. And I'll say this too. I think it's really smart for Janai Broome to return, because the growth last year, as he made an All-SEC team, he developed a 19, 20-foot shot that it did not make me think I'm watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 6 or Caddyshack 2. And if we've learned lessons, I mean, I still contend that I don't think Zach Edey is going to be a top 20 NBA draft pick. We look up, and Oscar Tshiebwe was National Player of the Year and dominated the SEC, and he's probably playing in Turkey. He may be at the end of an NBA roster.
He's at the end of the bench, yeah.
But, I mean, he was making more money in NIL at Kentucky. I think Janai Broome is going to be in that same position, and especially if he has a conversation with Bruce Pearl about, I'm going to need to play some three, and, hey, in crunch time minutes, I'll go put my butt on the block and get you low post buckets. But if I'm going to be an NBA guy, I got to be able to shoot it from 22 feet at 6'10". Otherwise, because if Janai Broome's going to try to be a post-up player in the league, he's 6 inches shorter than Zach Edey. I mean, if Zach Edey's not going got a clear path, how is Janai Broome? Janai Broome, the difference between that is between me and Janai Broome. So, right. I mean, so if you're going to try to make yourself better for the league, now it does give Auburn a whole lot of senior players, because as you mentioned, Pegues is coming and he's a senior, and they got a couple of 4-star recruits coming, and now they lost Aiden Holloway and Trey Donaldson, who are their top 2 point guards, but both underachieved last year, in my opinion. And they lost KD Johnson, who I think KD Johnson has spent more time in college than I did, and that is saying something. So, I mean, holy good gravy.
I've always thought that he could play safety in college football. I mean, he's got such a motor. Um, I think we might have discussed that one time. All right, moving away from Auburn. And by the way, like I said, Bet Online's got Auburn at 21-1 to win the national title next year. So, some news about my Gators this week. So, Will Richard is going to do what Walter Clayton is doing, and that is test the NBA waters by maintaining his eligibility. But he specifically said that. If he comes back to school, it will only be to Florida. So, in the last week, the Gators have picked up two guys out of the portal, Sam Alexis from Chattanooga and Ruben Chinelu from Washington State. Both are two big guys. And they also got, for 2025, they got a commitment from a top 50 player this week. So Todd Golden continues to do work. Let's go over. Oh, I'll just briefly mention that LSU has landed a solid player, and this was actually a couple weeks ago, but Cam Carter from K-State, who averaged 14.6 points per game. He is Baton Rouge bound. Carter had a key role, obviously, for K-State this past year. And then they also added Jordan Sears from UT Martin, who averaged 21.6 points per game, 4.5 assists. So LSU has added a couple of key players. Mississippi State has added two guys out of the portal, but most importantly, Josh Hubbard did not enter the portal. I remember we were speculating on that in February, weren't we? That he might. They probably found him some NIL money. Missouri. They got a good kid, Tony
Yes,
Perkins
they
from
did.
Iowa. Yeah, Tony
Yeah.
Perkins from Iowa is a player. Actually, two guys. I mean, I don't know much about Marcus Warwick, but he averaged 19.9 points per game at Northern Kentucky, and Jacob Cruz averaged 19.1 and 8.2 rebounds at UT Martin.
Hey, if there's one guy who you are following the most in the portal right now, is it the St. Mary's point guard?
I'd say him and Big Cliff Amori at Rutgers, who's one of the best rim protectors in the country and has been for 3 or 4 years. But let's see.
Because
Um,
I'll tell you mine as you're still kind of plowing through this.
yeah.
I think DJ Wagner's going to be a star.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, and dear Lord, I would love for him to come compete to play point guard at Auburn, but I don't think it'll happen. I mean, that guy athletically, defensively, I know he had to come off the bench, so he got limited shot opportunities and didn't shoot it real well from three last year. And of course, every transferring Kentucky player, you have to put Arkansas at the top of the list of where they're probably going to at least look first. But I think DJ Wagner is a bona fide future NBAer.
And I agree with what you just said about, us thinking these Kentucky guys or the commits and then the players like DJ Wagner, that already played there. I'm wondering, like, what's the delay? I mean, like, wouldn't you think? I mean, Big Z already committed, but wouldn't you think all of, or not all of them, but I mean, wouldn't you think at least 3 or 4 would have already? I mean, maybe they just got to visit Arkansas, and I don't know. I would just think they're all Cal guys, and that it would be done for at least some of them. So whatever, that'll be interesting to watch. Chris Beard has been doing some work for Ole Miss in the portal as well. Yesterday, he gets a commitment from David Barnes, who played at Sam Houston State. But the big one, or two big ones to me, the biggest being Seton Hall transfer Dre Davis, who was very pivotal in Seton Hall's run to win the NIT and averaged 15 points, 5.9 rebounds. That's a really good, and 1.3 block shots. That's a really good get for Ole Miss. And they got Malik Dia, who started his career at Vandy, was at Belmont this past year, averaged 16.9 points and 5.8 rebounds per game. Let's see where Ole Miss's number
Hey,
is.
brother,
Go
you
ahead.
mentioned Ole Miss. You want to talk about not having enough basketballs to share? You add in the 4 transfers that you were referencing, including the 2 top end dudes. They are going to have 7 guys on their roster who averaged better than 12.9 points a game last year for
Yep.
various schools.
Yes. Yeah. They're gonna have a lot of or they're not gonna have enough balls to go
Correct.
around. Yeah, I'm trying to find their number and I'm not seeing, but while I am seeing some numbers, I'm just going to throw them out. These are Bet Online numbers to win the 2025 NCAA tournament. Mississippi State 90-1, Missouri 90-1, Florida is 50-1, Tennessee is 50-1, and if Ole Miss is more than 100-1, they might be worth a flyer. And anyway, I'll find it in a minute. I'm not seeing it. South Carolina is 150. 150 to 1. They got a high school kid, a 4-star committed in Cam Scott the other day, but they've got some work to do in the portal. That brings us to Tennessee and Jonas Adu. I forget if we talked about this last week. That's a pretty big loss, don't you think?
Oh, it's a huge loss.
Yeah.
And they lose Adu, they lose Awaka, which were their top 2 on the depth chart, at least until the end of the season, in the interior. And then you start looking up, Connect's gone,
Josiah Jordan James,
James is
Santiago
out of
Vescovi.
eligibility. Vescovi was recruited, I think, with Allen Houston in 1994.
Yes.
And so he's out of eligibility. And then they lose 2 backup guards. Now, Ziegler's going to come back, and he's going to be Zakai Ziegler. Great defensively, probably asking to do a little more offensively. But this is a team that I think had a whole lot of surprises because they thought a whole lot of these guys may be coming back. They've only got 1 recruit coming in, and their high school rank is outside the top 70 by most recruiting services. And you're talking about Tennessee.
So they're going to be getting busy in the portal here real soon. They did get a
Yeah.
Hofstra kid, Darlin Stone Dubar, 17.8 points per game, 6.8 rebounds from Hofstra. They did get him earlier this week. I did find Ole Miss's number at Bet Online to win the tournament next year. It's 150 to 1.
Have you already put money on that?
I have not, but I'm not against a $10 or $20 bill on it because I bet Chris Beard is going to add more talent. And like Jay just noted, what was 7 guys averaged more than 12 points per game at various schools? That's a lot of scorers. Texas A&M's got a lot of guys coming back, but 2 incoming. I think they've got another roster spot or 2 to fill. We'll see what happens there. Byington has got a lot of work to do on the Vandy roster. He has landed a couple transfers from Vatech, and he brought one of his guys from James Madison. Anything else on portal stuff in college hoops before we move on to other things?
Well, we'll move on to some other things, but one, I think we're shortchanging what's going to be a Texas Longhorn roster that is going to also have a whole lot of new looks to it from who they're bringing back. They've probably got Trey Johnson, maybe the top incoming freshman now at the Kentucky class, has RUNN OFT'd. He's top 5 in Rivals, top 5 ESPN, and then they've added Tremont Mark from Arkansas and a couple Indiana State transfers, all who can score. And you mentioned the just sheer number of experience that Buzz Williams is bringing back. You look at the point guards in the league that are gonna go into next year with Sears and Wade Taylor at A&M and Zakai Ziegler, and I mean, you best have a point guard, or you're gonna bang your head against the wall.
Well, the Gators are in search of a point guard right now, and one that entered the portal that was a bit of a surprise this week was Jeremy Roach, the longtime
Yeah.
veteran for Duke. So that's one guy that I'm sure many SEC schools uh, will be looking into. And Bill Self did some work yesterday. He
Yes, he
got
did.
yeah he I mean shocker, but
Well,
yeah
and I'll tell you, as we transition to kind of looking towards football a little bit, you mentioned the work Chris Beard did. Ole Miss has clearly embraced the portal because one of the reasons that Lane Kiffin and company are have a huge over under total and have relatively shortening odds to be in a college football playoff team is the work they did in the portal. So you talk about basketball and football portal moves in Oxford. They're saying, "Beam me up, Scotty," because everybody's portaling.
yes, and that might also be the best 1-2 punch of head coaches, just football, basketball, in the country at Ole Miss. Can you think of one? Who comes? Does anybody come to mind that more than better than the Beard Kiffin combo? Um,
Well, I know last year was a debacle. Lincoln Riley, and Eric Musselman aren't going to have to apologize to anybody.
that is a very good point. That is a very good point. All right. Can you pull up Auburn's schedule and let's talk a little Auburn football as Bet Online has their over under at 7.5 wins. But if you are bullish on the under, you got to pay a pretty big price at minus 165. You'd have to risk 165 to win 100 on them to win 7 or fewer. But if you like if you think Auburn can get to the 8-4 mark, you can get a plus 135 payout. And I'm gonna pull my Auburn schedule up here. You got yours in front of you yet?
I do. I do. It is a favorable schedule, but I will say this: I have talked to multiple people who were at, and you got to take everything you see in a spring game with as a grain of salt. Because I can remember going on 14 years ago, the Auburn spring game. Cam Newton played sparingly leading into the 2010 season, but conversely, in the opposite of Cam Newton is the Auburn quarterback situation now. And I don't know if help is coming. I would caution I think the conversation we should have is what we think, but I don't necessarily know until we reconvene in the summer and we get into like a dead period. We may be paying lesser odds, but what happens if Auburn gets a 5-star portal quarterback, if there are any more out there? I don't know. Heck, there could be portal quarterbacks who have already hopped from one place to another who then hop again. Right. So, I mean, because Auburn's got a huge hole at quarterback. Now, their schedule, I mean, let's talk just in league games. Georgia and Missouri are going to be good. We don't know what Texas A&M is going to be. We don't know what Alabama's going to be. Are they going to be talented? Yes. But that first year, the wheels could fall off of this thing. And, hey, I got to tell you, I am stunned they let that heathen redneck going, if you don't bleed crimson, I don't get whatever he says. That's not the way you elevate your program. What a debacle that is. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, what are you doing? Can you ask somebody about, hey, what do you think about this? No, it's a redneck from Coleman saying the word piss on social media. That's not a no. That's a hard no. It's a hard no.
Are you talking about Roll Tide Willie? Is that
yes, Roll Tide Willie. What a flippin' heathen. I mean, okay. So Alabama A&M win. California win. They got to come across country. They will not sleep on New Mexico because of what happened in New Mexico State last year. Those are the 3 non-conference.
3-0.
What?
3-0.
3-0. I don't know what Arkansas is.
I don't think they're going to be very good. They got the quarterback from Boise State who's athletic, but Arkansas is not going to be very good. I don't think.
Hey,
So I
there's a real chance. You're talking about Arkansas quarterback. There's a real chance KJ Jefferson goes down there with Malzahn
and
and lights
balls out.
it up.
Yes, yes, yes,
He
indeed.
he he may be. He may be. We had some fun with Jaden Daniels Heisman conversation, and one a couple of years ago that didn't hit, but we were right there till the very end on long odds on a Heisman. I'd throw a couple little, especially when you get to an expanded 8-team or a 12-team playoff. Because if KJ Jefferson can lead UCF into that playoff spot and he puts up 45, 1,250 touchdowns, I don't know. Oklahoma at home. So Auburn plays into the month of October without leaving the state, without leaving the
That
campus.
yeah, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got a lot of roster studying to do. I would like right now say that's a coin flip game. Like,
I agree.
so right,
Especially after losing Dylan Gabriel, which was kind of perplexing, but I think it's a coin flip game. Agreed. Loss at Georgia, loss at Missouri, even after the off week. Then you get Kentucky and Vanderbilt. I mean, I think the 7.5 number is scheduled. You get Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and La Monroe, and a rebuilding A&M.
all right. So let's right now. So we were at 4-0. We're calling Oklahoma coin flip. We're L's at Missouri, so we're 4-2 with the. Let's make at Kentucky another coin flip for now. Then we'll give a W to Vandy, so 5-2 with 2 coin flips. A W ULM, that's 6-2, and then you got A&M at home. We'll call that a coin flip for now. So that's 3 coin flips. At Bama, we'll call so 6-2 with 4 coin flips, and you only need to get 2 W's out of Oklahoma at
Well,
home, at Kentucky, A&M at home, and at Bama. I think it's
even with the sheepskin on my wall, I'm not comfortable calling Alabama a coin flip. Auburn's roster is not talented enough to line up with Alabama, especially in Tuscaloosa. So
okay.
I would say 6-3 with 3 coin flips.
Yeah, so it's a good number. 7.5 is a good number. I think the books have
7.5
done
is a
it.
good number because 2 of your 3 coin flips are at home.
Yep.
Oklahoma and
Yep.
Texas A&M.
Yep. Yeah. You know, because you brought up Jaden Daniels a second ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
It made me think of the NFL draft props because I tell you what, if one of these, and the thing with betting the NFL draft is that your bet can be a loser, but you could still be right, and you can
Right.
still be proven to be right in the long haul. And so that brings me to my point. If one of these knuckleheads drafts Drake May or JJ McCarthy ahead of Jayden Daniels, they should be fired, and they will be fired 2 years later. And I'm looking for, so I got Bet Online's draft props. I'm looking for Jayden Daniels because I want.
Brother, I could not agree with you more. And I know it's the safe pick, and GMs prefer the safe pick because they don't want to be second guessed in the here and now. Jayden Daniels is going to be CJ Stroud. Jayden Daniels is him. He is 100% him. And I mean, I think he's better than Caleb Williams.
That was what I was about to say. I would take him number 1 ahead of Caleb
I would
Williams.
too. I 100% would. 100%
Yes.
would.
Yes. And I wouldn't like give two about what anybody says.
I'm going to get the guy I want, who I just watched play in the SEC, which is the NFL AAA, against Bama and all those other dudes.
Video game numbers, video game stats.
4,000, 1,000, 50 touchdowns.
I think he rushed for like, well, I'll exaggerate and say 500 yards, but I really legit think he rushed for like 280 yards against my Gators this
Yeah.
year, and like 300 passing yards too. I mean, oh my God, he just ate us up. Where are we on time? Oh, we're already at 40 minutes. Okay, so we're going to talk the Gators next week and probably add another team, and we'll have more portal stuff. So Braves team, before we get out of here, Braves team totals have been treating you well, and what other gambling nuggets you have, and obviously remind our listeners if we got any first timers about Jay's plays and what have you.
Well, Jay's Plays is our afternoon email here at the Times Free Press. It comes out at 5 o'clock every Monday through Friday. I've been on the seesaw. Feels like every day I hit one, miss one, hit one, miss one, hit one, miss one. Last night we had a winner, and because we had a rain out in Chicago, so I was probably going to miss that one. But as we transition into new sports and maybe sports we're not as familiar with, we're about to get the fire hydrant of gambling opportunities in prime time on TV sports with hockey, NBA, Major League Baseball through the postseason and through the center stage of that all over the place. I would encourage the Braves offense is scary good. Its lineup 1 through 8 is as good as any I've seen in the last decade. They average 6 runs a game. They crush left-handed starting pitching. They have been very good on a team over, which is normally in that 4.5 to 5.5 range, and including going 6-1 over the last week or so. The other thing I would look for, home teams in the NBA playoffs, once they get out of the play-in round, home teams in game 2 after they lose game 1. Because not so much about the desperation of the home team, but because of the satisfaction of the road team. Road teams go on the road for game 1, game 2 in an effort to get a split. When they get a split, they've now already mission accomplished, business trip handled. It has proven there's nothing that is a sure thing in sports betting. You guys know that. Brian knows that. I am living proof of that. But when this opportunity presents itself, be real cognizant and look around at a couple of numbers. But teams that win game 1 on the road normally get blasted in game 2.
Yep, they call it zigzag theory, as quite often whatever the result is in game 1, it quite often is the opposite in game 2. All right, I don't have like a lot of NBA plays. The one I do have, the numbers kind of moved against us. Bet Online has got the Nuggets -7.5 at a -108 price. I got Denver -6.5. Yesterday, they have won 8 straight head-to-head meetings over the Lakers, and they are 5-0 against the spread in the last 5. And important to note that when they played, the 3 times they played the Lakers this year, Anthony Davis and LeBron, I went and looked at all 3 box scores. Not only did they play, they played well. So it wasn't like it was, Denver caught them on a night when LeBron was injury management. Nothing like that. The Nuggets beat them by 12 this year, by 8, and by 10.
Well,
So
they don't have an answer for Jokic.
Jokic, right?
I mean, he's 40, 10, and 10 against them.
Yes.
How did you do in kickboxing last week?
I was going to say, I need to apologize to our listeners that my picks were not that great, but the fights were fun. And did you see the highlight of Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, the knockout? You didn't?
The grown men running around their underwears taking swings at each other?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
It was good stuff. All right. I feel like I wanted to. Just injury wise. All right. Jimmy Butler's out. Giannis is going to miss the first few games of Milwaukee, Indiana.
Zion Williamson is out.
Zion is. Yep. Now the Pelicans did play. They beat Sacramento 5 times this year. And they did beat them without Zion one time by 33 points. But New Orleans did not look that great the other night. That's a pass for me. I think a lot of people like Sacramento with Zion out, but the head-to-head domination gives me pause. And Brandon Ingram is playing, but not. He's only been back like 2 or 3 games after missing like a month. If there's another look, if I think Kawhi is going to be out on Sunday when the Clippers host the Mavs, if that becomes official, I certainly lean Mavs in that game. The Mavs, before they rested starters the last 2 regular season games and got killed, they were on a 16-2 run, both straight up and against the spread. So the Mavs are in good form. Clippers not in good form and probably not going to have Kawhi. And
we're gonna die before the city of Atlanta sports franchises hopefully make a worse trade than what turned into Trae Young for Luka Doncic.
Right. Last thing. Do you want the Hawks to trade Trae or Murray?
Trae.
Really?
He can't guard a parked car. I mean,
the whole team can't guard.
Well, yeah, but it's because your point guard can't stop a soul. And yeah. I mean, honestly, he's going to have Trae Young is going to have to average 40 and 10 to make up for the defensive opportunities he gives opposing point guards, especially if you get a point guard who's 6'4" or taller, who can rotate around one screen and go put his back to the basket.
Don't you think we can get a nice return though on Trae?
No,
he's going
to get paid $43+ million next year.
There are teams that need a spark offensively that are like
spark. There's no way he's anything more than a 2 player on a contender. Look around at the contenders and tell me, would you rather have Paul George or Trae Young? Would you rather have Kyrie Irving or Trae Young? Would you rather have Damian Lillard?
Hold on, you're talking like 10-time All-Stars. You just threw out like 3 10-time All-Stars.
These guys are making the same amount of money, and they're the 2s on their team. This is the guy you want to build around? No. He's as bad a player as he has a haircut. Period. That's all I got to say.
And we'll leave with that. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Bet Online, Southeastern 14. And we will talk to you next Friday. We're over and out.